So I've been meaning to make a video on both Inosuke and Bakugo from their respective series, and I figured, you know what, they're pretty similar characters. It'd be interesting to, compare and contrast them a bit, so that's what I'll be doing in this video. They're both a bit odd, to say the least. They clearly have anger management issues, and they both want to be the very best fighters, and because of this, they're constantly seeking new challenges, even when it's outside of their own personal realm of strength. This lack of intelligence is definitely something we see more from Inosuke, as he often picks battles that he's clearly not strong enough to win, and Bakugo is much more intelligent with his battles as well as his chance of winning. But to be fair, at the beginning of My Hero Academia, we see a match between Bakugo and Deku in which Bakugo is just blindsided by rage and trying to absolutely destroy him, and because of this, he ends up losing the match, not physically, but because the goal wasn't to just win physically, it was more than that. It was a heroes and villains simulation in which I believe the heroes had to get to a bomb within a certain amount of time. It's been a while since I watched this, but yeah, that's basically the premise. The similarity that we can draw here is that both characters learn from these big losses early in the series and realize that they have to fight smarter. I feel like Bakugo does it a little more quickly than Inosuke maybe. Inosuke is still very brash, but yeah, they both do have this development. They realize that they're not the strongest, and while this is a setback, they both do push beyond it eventually, and sad Inosuke in bed is just, it's so cute. For Inosuke, we see this development prevalently in the next arc, in which he defeats Upper Rank 1 Enmu with the help of Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Nezuko, and of course, Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. And then Bakugo gets his redemption against Deku in their rematch, which takes place in season 3 of the anime, and at some point in the manga, I don't know the exact chapters right now, but yeah, he wins this fight. It is relatively close, but he redeems himself and beats Deku. We actually get to see more emotional depth from Bakugo in this fight, as the fight really only happens because he feels responsible for All Might's retirement. Similar emotion is displayed by Inosuke after Rengoku's sacrifice, as we see him crying, running around, throwing his swords, and being upset at his own perceived weakness. This is a far cry from the uncaring Inosuke we first see at the beginning of the story, where he attacks Zenitsu and just wants to kill Nezuko in the box without even really questioning anything, and he just cares only about fighting, really. And like Bakugo, he also fights the main character of the series, Tanjiro, except this is in their first meeting, whereas with Bakugo and Deku, it's kind of like a reoccurring theme so far throughout the story. But yeah, Inosuke loses to Tanjiro in their first fight. This just adds more to the characters and their interaction. As the story progresses, we see that they keep their attitudes, but are able to work with other people, even if they call them underlings, etc., such as when Bakugo completely destroys Class B in the Class A versus Class 1B battle in season 4 of the anime. Bakugo himself says that he hasn't changed, that his goal is the same, and it's to be the #1 hero and surpass All Might, but except this time, he's protecting other people as well as relying on them to protect him when he needs it, which is a great development and really shows how far his characters come. What I love so much about Bakugo's development is that it's subtle throughout the series, as he realizes that if he keeps looking down on everyone, he won't realize his own weakness. We eventually see him sacrificing himself for Deku in the war arc, where his body moves on his own just like Deku's does, and it's just a really beautiful comparison. And then eventually we actually see him finally apologize to Deku, and this is just building and building until he finally apologized for everything and explained the reasons why he was so upset at Deku. Now, because of the length of Demon Slayer and also the kind of series it is, I feel like Inosuke's development wasn't as complex as Bakugo's or drawn out, but by the end of the series, specifically in the final arc, we do see him shed tears when thinking about his mother, who he finds out was killed by Upper Rank 2 Demon Doma, and we also see him being very upset because Doma also killed Shinobu, who he liked and had a relationship with. Furthermore, he sheds tears out of anger and sadness when fighting against Muzan, telling them that he'll pay for what he's done with 1,000,000 deaths. He wants Muzan to give back all the lives and things that he took, and this really just shows how much Inosuke cares now and has learned to care throughout the series. I really love seeing these interesting developments from both these characters. The final scene with Inosuke's character that I want to talk about is when he's fighting Demon King Tanjiro right at the end of the story, and he hesitates. He can't slice him because of all the memories they've had together, and that they're all friends. They're like brothers to him, and it just really shows how far he's come from just being a hot-headed, kid raised by boys who only wanted to fight, to really loving these brothers of his. Now, I shouldn't fail to mention that Kirishima seemed to be the first person that Bakugo really warmed up to, as in season 3 of the anime, he was the only one who could call out to Bakugo, as Bakugo would only take his hand in escaping the League of Villains, and this just shows that Bakugo considers him a friend and an equal, unlike everyone else at this point. And again, this is just a really good example of how Horikoshi planted the seeds of Bakugo's character arc, and yeah, I mean, it dates all the way back to season 3, season 2, and it really evolved into something very interesting, and he's a really great character in my opinion, along with Inosuke. One last thing I'd want to compare between the two is that Inosuke, again, as I said earlier, was raised by boars, which leads to a lot of his actions and brashness of the series, and Bakugo was raised by his mom and dad. His dad seems very timid, and his mom seems very much like him, so this could obviously add to why he was the way he was before his development. But yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything that I wanted to, comparing and contrasting these two characters. You know, they're similar in a lot of ways, but again, Bakugo has a more drawn-out development over the course of hundreds of chapters, and Demon Slayer is a much shorter, simpler series. That's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. I'm trying to take this YouTube thing more seriously, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one.